The worst feeling in the world isn't being left out by strangers. It's standing in front of a wedding venue and realizing your own parents are the ones keeping you outside. I had traveled 18 hours, carrying a gift for my sister and hoping this wedding would finally heal our broken relationship. But when I reached the entrance, my father looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not coming in." Then my mother whispered the words that shattered me. "Only family is allowed." I walked away that day thinking I had lost them forever. But 3 days later, my phone rang and they were begging me. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, and I work as a marketing consultant in Seattle, Washington. From the outside, most people would probably say I had built a good life for myself. I had a career I was proud of, a small apartment overlooking the city, and friends who felt more like family than anything else. But there was always one thing I never managed to fix: my relationship with my own family. Growing up, I always felt like I was standing slightly outside the circle. Not completely rejected, not openly hated, but never truly chosen either. My younger sister, Olivia, was the one everyone celebrated. She was the daughter my parents showed off, the one they defended, the one whose dreams seemed to matter more than anyone else's. When Olivia wanted dance lessons, they found the best studio in town. When she wanted a new car for college, they helped her buy one. When she had problems, everyone rushed to solve them. I never asked for much. I was the responsible one. The daughter who got good grades, worked part-time, and tried not to create problems. I learned early that being easy to handle was the best way to keep peace in our house. Even as an adult, I kept trying. I called my parents every week. I remembered birthdays. I showed up whenever they needed help. Whenever there was a family gathering, I was the one driving hours just to be there. Deep down, I think I was still hoping that one day they would look at me the way they looked at Olivia. That maybe one day, they would finally say, "We're proud of you." So when Olivia announced she was getting married, I honestly believed it could be the moment everything changed. I thought maybe this wedding would bring us closer. Maybe after years of feeling like the forgotten daughter, I would finally feel like I belonged. I had no idea that the biggest rejection of my life was waiting for me at the entrance of that wedding venue. The morning of Olivia's wedding, I woke up before my alarm even rang. I remember lying in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe my family and I were finally going to have a fresh start. I had flown 18 hours across the country just to be there. I could have watched the ceremony, through pictures later. I could have sent a gift and stayed home. But that wasn't who I was. I wanted to show up. I wanted my sister to know that despite everything, I still loved her. I arrived at the wedding venue carrying a carefully wrapped gift and a handwritten card I had spent hours writing. The place looked beautiful. Flowers covered the entrance, guests were laughing, and everyone seemed excited. For a moment, I felt hopeful. Then I saw my parents standing near the entrance. At first, I smiled and waved. I thought my mother would hug me. I thought my father would tell me he was glad I came. Instead, they looked at me with expressions I didn't recognize. My father stepped forward before I could walk inside. "Emily, wait." I laughed softly because I thought he was joking. "What's wrong?" He looked away for a second, then said, "You can't come in." I honestly thought I had misunderstood him. "What do you mean I can't come in? I'm here for Olivia's wedding." My mother crossed her arms and looked at me calmly. "Emily, this is not the time to make a scene." My heart started beating faster. "A scene? I just got here." Then she said the words that I still remember perfectly. "Only family is allowed inside." For a few seconds, everything around me went quiet. I looked at my parents, waiting for one of them to realize how cruel that sounded. "I'm your daughter," I whispered. My mother didn't even hesitate. "Not today." I looked past them, hoping Olivia would come out and say something, hoping she would tell them this was wrong. But she stood near the entrance, watching silently. That hurt more than anything. I placed the gift down beside me and realized something I never wanted to accept. I had spent my whole life trying to earn a place in a family that had already decided I didn't belong. So I turned around, picked up my suitcase, and walked away. And as the wedding music started behind me, I made a promise to myself. I would never chase people who only remembered my value when they needed me. The flight back to Seattle felt longer than the flight I had taken to get there. I sat by the window the entire time, staring at the clouds below me, trying to understand what had just happened. I wasn't crying anymore. Somehow, the pain had moved past tears and turned into something heavier. Disbelief. I kept replaying that moment outside the wedding venue. Only family is allowed inside. Those words kept repeating in my mind. Because the worst part wasn't missing the wedding. The worst part was realizing my own parents had looked at me and decided I was someone they needed to hide. When I got home, I placed the wedding gift I had brought on a shelf in my closet. I couldn't throw it away, but I couldn't look at it either. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself that maybe there was an explanation. Maybe my parents had panicked. Maybe Olivia had no idea what they were planning. But deep down, I knew better. Then I finally learned the truth. My parents didn't ban me because of some misunderstanding. They banned me because they wanted everything at the wedding to look perfect. Olivia's fiancé came from a wealthy family. His parents were successful, well-connected, and extremely image-conscious. My parents wanted them to believe our family was flawless. They didn't want anyone asking questions about the tension between us. They didn't want anyone noticing that their perfect family had a daughter who felt invisible for years. And there was another reason. A few months before the wedding, I had warned Olivia about some financial decisions she was making. I wasn't trying to control her life. I was trying to protect her. But Olivia didn't see it that way. She told my parents I was being jealous. From that moment on, I became the problem. The difficult daughter. The one who always had something negative to say. Nobody cared that I was telling the truth. They only cared that I wasn't saying what they wanted to hear. 3 days after the wedding, while I was finally beginning to accept that I might never have the family I wanted, my phone started ringing. It was my mother, and for the first time in years, she sounded afraid. When my mother's name appeared on my phone screen, I just stared at it. For a few seconds, I didn't know whether I should answer. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the silence continue, to finally give myself permission to stop chasing people who had spent years making me feel unwanted. But another part of me, the same part that had flown 18 hours for my sister's wedding, still hoped. Maybe this was the apology I had been waiting for. Maybe my mother was calling to say she was sorry. So I answered. Emily. Her voice sounded different. Not angry. Not confident. Not like the woman who had stopped me at the wedding entrance. She sounded nervous. Mom, there was a long pause. Then she said, "We need to talk." I waited. I wanted to hear the words I had imagined for years. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. You didn't deserve that." But none of those words came. Instead, she said, "The wedding cost more than we expected." I stayed quiet. At first, I thought I had misunderstood. "What does that have to do with me?"
She sighed.
"Your sister's wedding expenses went over budget. There were extra costs, and we're trying to figure everything out." Then came the sentence that made everything clear. "We need your help." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. 3 days earlier, I had stood outside that wedding venue while my own parents told me I wasn't family. Now they were calling because they needed something from me. "Mom," I said quietly, "did you really call me for money?" She immediately became defensive. "It's not just about money. We're family." Family. That word felt completely different coming from her now. I looked around my apartment, at the life I had built without their support, and remembered standing outside that wedding alone. "You told me I wasn't family," I said. My mother became silent. And in that silence, I finally understood. They didn't miss me. They missed what I could provide. After that phone call, I sat on my couch for almost an hour without moving. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even surprised. The truth was, a part of me had always known this day would come. I had spent years being the person my family called when they needed something. Need someone to help with bills? Call Emily. Need someone to fix a problem? Call Emily. Need someone to show up when everyone else disappeared? Call Emily. But when I needed them, suddenly I wasn't family. I thought about all the times I had defended them, all the times I had traveled home, All the times I had ignored my own hurt because I believed family meant never giving up on each other. And then I remembered standing outside that wedding venue. I remembered my mother saying, "Only family is allowed inside." My phone rang again. This time it was my father. I answered because I wanted to hear what he had to say. "Emily, your mother explained everything," he said. "You know we didn't mean it like that." I almost smiled. After all these years, they were still trying to explain instead of apologize. "You both made a choice," I said. My father became quiet. "You chose to lock me out when you didn't need me. Now you're asking me to come back because you do." My mother started crying in the background. She said, "Please, we're still your parents." And I finally said the words I had needed to say for years. "You told me I wasn't family when you didn't need me. I believed you." There was silence. Then I ended the call. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was losing my family. I felt like I was finally choosing myself. For the first few weeks after that phone call, I thought everything would go quiet. I thought my parents would be angry. I thought they would blame me, just like they always had. But something unexpected happened. People started reaching out. A few relatives who had stayed silent for years finally admitted they knew I had been treated differently. Some apologized for looking away. Others told me they had always noticed how my parents compared me to Olivia, but never had the courage to say anything. Then Olivia called. Her voice was different from before. She admitted she should have stopped my parents at the wedding. She admitted she was afraid of ruining her perfect day, and she let me become the sacrifice. I listened, but I also understood something important. An apology can acknowledge the pain, but it cannot erase the years that caused it. I didn't need revenge. I needed peace. And for the first time, I finally had it. Looking back now, I realized that the wedding wasn't the moment I lost my family. It was the moment I finally understood them. For years, I had been trying to earn a place at a table where I was only welcomed when I had something to offer. I thought being a good daughter meant accepting anything, forgiving everything, and staying quiet. But I was wrong. Family is not just about sharing the same last name. Family is about the people who make room for you. The people who stand beside you when there is nothing they can gain. The people who don't make you prove that you belong. The people who locked me outside that wedding taught me the most important lesson of my life. I never needed their invitation to belong. I had already built a family with people who chose me. And this time I chose myself too.